Have you ever seen a moment so raw and real that it turns strangers into heroes? Picture this: a disabled veteran in a wheelchair, rolling into a busy Los Angeles diner with her service dog, just hoping for a warm meal, only to be humiliated by a smug waiter. It's a cold October night, and all seems lost, until Keanu Reeves stands up from the shadows, confronts the chaos, and sparks a chain reaction no one saw coming. A desperate mother with a knife, a long-lost daughter, and a room full of strangers ready to fight or forgive. It's a story of heartbreak and hope. Where are you watching from right now? Your kitchen? Your couch? What state are you in? Let us know in the comments, and if this hooks you, smash that like button and subscribe, because what unfolds next will leave you speechless. Let's get into it. It's a cold October night in 2023, and a crowded diner in Los Angeles hums with life. The place is packed, tables full, waitstaff rushing, voices overlapping in a chaotic buzz. Tucked in a corner booth, a man sits alone, his hoodie pulled low over his face, sipping a cup of coffee that's gone lukewarm. That man is Keanu Reeves, fresh off a late-night film shoot, here for a quiet bite before heading home. No one's noticed him yet, and that's how he likes it. His dark eyes scan the room casually, until they lock onto something that makes him pause mid-sip. The diner door swings open, and in rolls Helen Carter, a 64-year-old disabled veteran. She's in a beat-up wheelchair, her hands gripping the armrests tightly. Once a military nurse in Iraq, she lost both legs to a roadside bomb years ago. Beside her trots Lucy, her golden retriever service dog, eyes sharp and alert. Helen's silver hair is pulled back, her face lined with exhaustion, but carrying a quiet strength. She's here for a hot meal after a long day of VA appointments, her stomach growling as she maneuvers toward an empty table. Before she can settle, Jake, a cocky waiter in his mid-20s, strides over. His green-dyed hair and sneering attitude scream arrogance. "We don't serve people like you here," he snaps, pointing at Lucy. "No dogs, no exceptions. Take it somewhere else." His voice cuts through the diner's noise, loud enough to turn heads. Helen blinks, caught off guard, but steadies herself. "I served this country," she says, her tone low but firm. "Saved lives under fire. I just want a meal. Why is that a problem?" Jake crosses his arms, smirking. "Rules are rules, lady. I don't care about your war stories. No dogs means no dogs. Get out." A few customers glance over, some whispering, others pretending not to hear. Helen's hands tremble slightly on her wheelchair, but she doesn't back down. "I've earned a seat here as much as anyone," she says, her voice rising just enough to show her frustration. Lucy lets out a low growl, sensing the tension, but stays close to Helen's side. From his corner, Keanu sets his coffee down. His jaw tightens as he watches, unnoticed by the growing crowd of onlookers. He didn't come here for drama, but something about this hits him hard. Maybe it's the unfairness, maybe it's Helen's quiet dignity. Either way, he's not about to let it slide. Jake leans closer to Helen, his tone turning venomous. "You deaf or just stupid?" "I said leave. You're wasting my time." The diner's chatter dips, replaced by an uneasy silence. A few chairs scrape as people shift, waiting to see what happens next. Helen takes a deep breath, gripping Lucy's leash tighter. "I'm not here to fight," she says, almost to herself, "but I'm not leaving because of you." Her words hang in the air, a mix of defiance and exhaustion. Jake scoffs, rolling his eyes. "Then sit there and starve, I don't care. You're not getting served." He turns away, like he's won, but the tension in the room thickens. A couple of customers murmur disapproval while others nod along with Jake, emboldened by his attitude. Keanu's fingers curl into a fist under the table. He's seen enough. This isn't just about a dog or a meal, it's about respect. Something Helen's clearly earned and Jake's too blind to see. He shifts in his seat, ready to move, but holds back for a moment, gauging the room. The air feels electric, like a storm's brewing, and he knows stepping in could spark it off. Helen locks eyes with Jake, her voice steady despite the shake in her hands. "You think you can just dismiss me? I've faced worse than you, kid." Jake spins back, his face twisting. "Worse than me? Cry me a river, old lady. Take your sob story and your mutt somewhere else." That's the line that snaps something in Keanu. He slides out of his booth, his 6'1" frame unfolding slowly, deliberately. The hoodie still shadows his face, but his presence shifts the room's gravity. He doesn't say a word yet, just stands there watching, letting the weight of his silence settle. Jake doesn't notice him, too busy glaring at Helen, but the crowd does. Whispers ripple out. Is that? No way, it can't be. Helen doesn't see Keanu either. She's too focused on holding her ground. I'm staying, she says, her voice cutting through the standoff. You don't get to decide who belongs here. Jake laughs, sharp and mean. Oh, I decide plenty. You're done. He steps closer, looming over her wheelchair, and that's when Keanu decides enough's enough. The tension's hit its breaking point, and whatever happens next, it's not going to be quiet. Keanu steps forward, his hoodie slipping back just enough to reveal his face. The diner goes quiet for a split second, the kind of hush that hits when everyone realizes something big's about to happen. He's not shouting, not yet, just standing there, tall and steady, his dark eyes locked on Jake. You're out of line, he says, his voice low but sharp, cutting through the tension like a blade. She's earned more respect than you'll ever understand. Back off. Jake freezes, his smirk faltering as he registers who's talking. But he's too full of himself to back down. Oh, great, a Hollywood hotshot, he sneers, turning to face Keanu fully. What's it to you, Reeves? This ain't your business. Go play hero somewhere else. He jabs a finger toward Helen. Her and her stupid dog can hit the road. I'm not serving her, period. The crowd shifts, some leaning in, others pulling back, unsure where this is headed. Helen grips her wheelchair, her knuckles whitening. I don't need saving, she mutters, glancing at Keanu. But there's a flicker of gratitude in her eyes she can't hide. Keanu doesn't flinch, stepping closer to Jake. It's not about saving her, he says, his tone icy. It's about you treating her like trash, when she's given more to this country than you could dream of. You don't get to talk to her like that. His words land heavy, and for a moment, Jake's bravado wavers. But then Tom, a burly guy in a stained jacket, lumbers up from a nearby table. He's been nursing a beer and a grudge, and now he's got a target. Hey, pretty boy, he growls, shoving his way between Keanu and Jake. You don't run this place. The kid said no dogs, so no dogs. Take your bleeding heart crap and shove it. He looms over Helen, his shadow falling across her wheelchair. And you? Quit whining. Nobody cares about your war medals. Lucy growls louder now, teeth bared, but Helen holds her leash tight, keeping her steady. The diner splits fast. A young nurse named Lisa, sitting near the door, stands up, her voice shaky but firm. That's not right, she says, pointing at Jake and Tom. She's a veteran. She deserves better than this. A few heads nod, a couple of older guys muttering agreement, but others rally behind Tom. A wiry guy in a trucker hat yells, Yeah, kick her out. I didn't come here for this drama. Another tosses a crumpled napkin toward Helen, shouting, Rules are rules. It lands near Lucy, who snaps at it, making the crowd jump. Jake, emboldened by Tom's backup, doubles down. See? People agree with me. You're the problem here, Reeves. Sticking your nose where it doesn't belong, he smirks at Helen. And you? You're just a washed-up has-been with a flea-bitten mutt. Get lost. That's when Keanu's patience snaps. He closes the gap between him and Jake, his voice dropping to a dangerous calm. Say that again, he dares, his stare unblinking. Go ahead, see what happens. Tom shoves Keanu's shoulder hard, trying to push him back. You want to go, tough guy? I'll wipe that look off your face. Keanu stumbles but catches himself, his fists clenching. He doesn't swing, not yet. But the air crackles with the threat of it. Helen raises her voice, cutting through the noise. Stop it! I'm not here for a brawl. Her words are sharp, but there's a tremble in them, like she's holding back a flood of emotion. Lucy barks, loud and fierce, adding to the chaos. The crowd's getting rowdy now. Tom's crew, 3 or 4 loudmouths, start chanting, Kick him out! Kick him out! They bang fists on tables, egging Jake on. Lisa and a few others push back, yelling, Leave her alone! A glass tips over somewhere, shattering on the floor, and the sound jolts everyone. Jake grabs the chance, stepping up to Keanu with a smug grin. You're outnumbered, big shot. What you gonna do, cry to your agent? Keanu doesn't budge, his gaze shifting from Jake to Tom, then to the jeering faces around them. I'm not here to fight, he says, loud enough for everyone to hear. But I'm not letting you disrespect her either. Look at her, really look. She's got more guts than all of you combined. He points at Helen, who sits straighter, her chin lifting despite the chaos. The room wavers, some of the hecklers faltering, caught off guard by his words. Tom's not having it. He grabs a chair, dragging it forward like a weapon. "Gods, she's a nobody, and you're just a rich punk playing saint." He swings the chair toward Helen, not to hit her, but close enough to make her flinch. Lucy lunges, barking wildly, only stopped by Helen's quick yank on the leash. Keanu moves fast, putting himself between Tom and Helen, his arm up to block any more stunts. "Try that again," he warns, his voice a growl now. "I dare you." The diner's a powder keg. Fists are raised, voices overlap in a shouting match. Half the room rooting for Jake and Tom, the other half siding with Helen and Keanu. A woman screams as another glass hits the floor, and someone yells, "Call the cops!" Jake laughs, feeding off the mess. "You're done, Reeves, you and your crippled buddy." "Out." He points at the door, but Keanu doesn't move, his stance solid, protective. Helen's breathing hard, her hands shaking, but her eyes burn with defiance. The situation's spiraling, and it's anyone's guess what'll blow it wide open. The diner's chaos hits a fever pitch. Shouts, barking, the clatter of spilled dishes. When the door slams open with a bang, a woman storms in, her face half hidden by a dark scarf, eyes wild and desperate. It's Lydia, clutching a kitchen knife that glints under the diner's harsh lights. "Nobody move," she yells, her voice cracking as she waves the blade. "Give me your money, now! My family's starving." The room freezes, fear rippling through the crowd like a shockwave. Chairs screech as people duck or back away, eyes darting between her and the exit. Keanu, still shielding Helen, tenses but doesn't flinch. His gaze locks on Lydia, reading her shaky grip, the tremble in her stance. She's not a pro, she's scared, cornered. Helen, gripping Lucy's leash, stares too, her breath catching. "Put it down," she says, her voice steady despite the madness. "You don't have to do this." Lucy growls low, but Helen keeps her close, refusing to let the dog escalate things. Lydia's head snaps toward her, knife slashing the air. "Shut up! You don't know me. You don't know what I've lost." Tom, still itching for a fight, sees his chance. "Yeah, do it," he bellows from the sidelines, slamming a fist on a table. "Take their cash and run. Don't let this old hag talk you down." His words hit Lydia like fuel on a fire. She spins toward him, then back to Helen, her grip tightening. "You think I want this?" she screams, tears streaking her face. "My kid's dying. I've got nothing left." The crowd gasps, some shrinking back, others too stunned to move. Keanu steps forward, hands raised, slow and open. "Hey," he says, his tone calm but firm, cutting through her panic. "I see you're hurting. We can help. Just put the knife down." His eyes don't waver, steady as a lifeline. Lydia hesitates, her blade dipping slightly, but Tom's voice cuts in again. "Don't listen to him. He's full of it. Take what you need." He lurches closer, grinning like a hyena, egging her on. "Show him who's boss." That's the spark. Lydia's control snaps. With a guttural yell, she swings the knife, not at anyone but at the nearest table. The blade slams into the wood, splintering it, sending cups and plates crashing to the floor. The crowd screams, scrambling back as she rips the knife free and stabs again, this time into a chair, tearing the vinyl. "I'm done begging," she shrieks, slashing wildly now, her desperation boiling over. A shelf of condiments topples, ketchup bottles smashing in red streaks across the tiles. Helen rolls her wheelchair forward, ignoring the danger. "Listen to me," she shouts, her voice raw but commanding. "I've been where you are, lost, broken. I came back from Iraq with no legs, no home, nothing. I slept in alleys, ate scraps, but this," she points at the knife, "this won't fix it." Her words hit hard, and Lydia falters, her arm freezing mid-swing. The diner's a wreck, shattered glass, overturned chairs, but for a moment it's just the two of them, locked in a silent standoff. Keanu moves closer, slow and deliberate. "She's right," he says, his voice soft but steady. "I've seen people hit bottom and climb out. You're not alone. Let us help your kid." He nods toward the crowd, some of whom nod back, caught up in his calm. Lydia's eyes dart between him and Helen, her breathing ragged. "Help," she spits, bitter and broken. "No one helps people like me. I've tried. Lost my job, my house, everything." Tom laughs, harsh and grating. "See, they're lying. Cut 'em and run. Don't be weak." He grabs a bottle from a table and smashes it against the edge, glass shards flying, daring her to match his chaos. Lydia's face twists, and she lunges, not at any one, but at the counter, driving the knife deep into the wood. The blade sticks, and she yanks at it, screaming, "I'm not weak, I'm just done." Another swing, and a stack of menus scatters like confetti, the diner descending into full-blown pandemonium. Helen doesn't back off. "I lost my family too," she says, her voice breaking but fierce. "War took 'em. Took everything. I thought I'd never get it back, but you've still got a chance. Your kid needs you alive, not in jail." She leans forward, hands shaking on her chair. "I've been hungry, desperate. I've held dying kids in my arms. Don't make yours one of them." Her words pierce through Lydia's rage, and the knife wavers, her sobs choking out loud and messy. Keanu seizes the moment. "Look at her," he says, pointing at Helen. "She's proof you can survive this. We'll figure it out. Money, food, whatever your kid needs, just stop." He's close now, almost within reach of the knife, but he doesn't grab it, trusting her to let go. Lydia's knees buckle, the fight draining out of her. "My girl's so sick," she whispers, tears dripping onto the floor. "I just wanted to save her." Tom's still at it, kicking a chair aside. "Save her? Gutless! Finish it, take what's yours." His taunts push Lydia back to the edge, and she rips the knife free, slashing at the air again. A tray of silverware crashes down, forks and spoons skittering everywhere. The crowd screaming now, some bolting for the door, others frozen in horror. Jake, who'd been watching smugly, ducks behind the counter, finally out of his depth. Helen's voice rises one last time, cutting through the noise. "You're enough for her," she yells, slamming her fist on her wheelchair. "I wasn't there for mine. Don't make my mistake." Lydia stops, chest heaving, the knife slipping in her sweaty grip. Keanu's right there, his hand hovering but not touching. "Drop it," he says, quiet but unyielding. "We've got you." The diner holds its breath, teetering on the brink, waiting for her next move. Lydia's knife hovers in the air, her sobs echoing in the wrecked diner. The crowd's screams fade to a tense hush, all eyes on her trembling hand. Keanu inches away, keeps his voice steady. "You're not alone," he says, soft but firm. "We'll get your girl what she needs. Medicine, food, anything, just let it go." His hands stay open, no threat, just a promise. Helen, still in her wheelchair, leans forward, her face etched with pain and resolve. "I've lost too much to war," she says, her voice thick. "Don't lose your daughter to this." The words hit Lydia like a punch. Her arm drops, the knife slipping from her fingers and clattering to the floor. She collapses to her knees, hands covering her face as she chokes out. "She's got cancer. My baby's dying and I can't pay for the chemo." Tears stream down, raw and unstoppable. "I didn't know what else to do." The crowd shifts, some gasping, others softening. Her desperation's laid bare and it's hard to look away. Keanu kneels beside her, resting a hand on her shoulder. "You don't have to do it alone anymore," he says, his tone gentle but sure. "We'll figure it out." Helen rolls closer, Lucy nudging Lydia's leg with a soft whimper. "I've been broke and hopeless too," Helen adds. "Came back from Iraq to nothing, no family, no legs, but people helped me. Let us help you." Lydia looks up, her eyes red and searching, like she's afraid to believe it. Tom, still lurking near a smashed table, snorts, "Help! She's a thief. Lock her up." But his voice lacks the fire it had before. Even he's shaken by Lydia's breakdown. A few of his cronies mutter agreement, but the room's mood has shifted. Lisa, the young nurse, steps forward. "She's not a criminal. She's a mom," she says, loud enough to drown Tom out. "I've seen patients die because they couldn't pay. We can't let that happen." Nods ripple through the crowd, a flicker of unity cutting through the chaos. The diner door swings open again, and two cops step in. Siege D, Diane Miller leading the way, her partner trailing behind. She's got a no-nonsense look, hand on her radio, assessing the mess. Broken furniture, scattered glass, Lydia sobbing on the floor. "What's going on here?" she demands, her voice sharp but controlled. Tom points at Lydia. "She came in with a knife. Arrest her." Diane raises a hand to silence him, her eyes narrowing as she takes in Keanu and Helen beside the crying woman. Keanu stands, meeting Diane's gaze. "She's not a threat anymore," he says. "Her kid's sick. Cancer. She was desperate, not dangerous. We've got this under control." Diane glances at the knife, then at Lydia, who's rocking back and forth, mumbling, "I just wanted to save her." Helen chimes in, her voice steady despite the strain. "She's telling the truth. I've seen desperation like that, lived it. Don't punish her for loving her kid." Diane crouches beside Lydia, her tone softening. "Is that true? Your daughter's sick?" Lydia nods, barely audible. "Stage 3 leukemia. I lost my job, my insurance, everything. I thought this was my only shot." Diane exhales, standing back up. "All right," she says, decisive. "We're not cuffing you, not tonight. I'll call social services, get your girl into a treatment program, but you've got to stay clean from here on out. Deal?" Lydia nods frantically, clutching Diane's words like a lifeline. "Yes, yes, anything." The crowd murmurs, relief washing over some, skepticism lingering in others. Tom crosses his arms, muttering, "Soft cops." But he's ignored. Keanu looks at Diane. "Thanks," he says simply, and she nods back, already pulling out her phone to make the call. Lydia wipes her face, whispering, "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry," over and over. Helen reaches out, squeezing her hand. "You're not the first to break under pressure," she says. "You'll get through this." Then the door creaks open again, slower this time. A young woman steps in. Clara, about 30, with tired eyes and a backpack slung over one shoulder. She freezes, scanning the room, until her gaze lands on Helen. "Helen," she says, her voice small, trembling. Helen's head snaps up, her breath catching. "Clara?" she whispers, hands shaking on her wheelchair. The crowd turns, confusion mixing with curiosity. Clara nods, tears welling up. "It's me." Keanu steps back, giving them space, but he's watching close. Helen's voice cracks. "You're alive? I thought I'd lost you forever." Clara rushes forward, dropping to her knees beside the wheelchair. "I heard about this on a news alert, some veteran in a diner. I was nearby, had to see if it was you." She grabs Helen's hands, sobbing. "I'm your Clara, your foster kid. I ran away after you came back from Iraq. I was so mad, so stupid." Helen pulls her into a hug, tears streaming down her weathered face. "I looked for you," she says, voice breaking. "Every day I wondered where you went. War took so much, but losing you, that broke me." Clara clings to her, shaking. "I blamed you for leaving, for the war, for everything, but I was wrong. I've missed you so much." The diner's silent now, even Tom's crew too stunned to interrupt. Lucy wags her tail, nosing Clara's arm like she remembers her too. Keanu exchanges a look with Diane, who's paused her call to watch. "Guess it's a night for second chances," she mutters, almost smiling. Lydia lifts her head, staring at the reunion, her own tears slowing. "You've got a kid too?" she asks Helen, voice hoarse. Helen nods, still holding Clara. "Yeah, and I'd have done anything to keep her safe, like you." The weight of that sinks in, binding them in a way no one expected. The diner falls quiet as Helen and Clara cling to each other, their sobs filling the space with years of pent-up grief and relief. Helen's hands tremble on Clara's shoulders, her voice barely a whisper. "I thought I'd never see you again," she says, tears cutting tracks down her weathered cheeks. "I came back from Iraq broken, lost you, lost everything. I'm so sorry." Clara shakes her head, pressing her face into Helen's jacket. "No, I'm sorry. I ran because I was angry." "Thought you didn't care. I was wrong, Helen. I've missed you every day." The crowd watches, some wiping their eyes, others shifting awkwardly but unable to look away. Keanu steps back, giving them room, a faint smile tugging at his lips. Lydia, still on her knees, stares at the reunion, her own tears slowing. "You found her," she murmurs, almost to herself. Helen glances over, nodding through her sobs. "Yeah. And you'll save yours, too. We're tougher than we think." Lydia manages a shaky nod, clutching that hope like a lifeline. Clara pulls back, wiping her face. "I've been working odd jobs, trying to find you," she says. "Saw the news alert about a veteran in a diner. Had to come. I'm not running anymore." Helen squeezes her hand, her voice steadying. "Neither am I. Let's go home, Clara. Wherever that is, we'll figure it out together." Clara smiles, small but real, and the weight of their past starts to lift, replaced by something lighter, something new. SGT. Diane, phone still in hand, steps over to Lydia. "Social services is on it," she says, crouching down. "Your daughter's getting into a free treatment program. Chemo, meds, all covered. You just focus on being there for her, okay?" Lydia's eyes widen, her breath hitching. You mean it? She'll be okay? Diane nods, firm but kind. Yeah, and I'll check in. Make sure you're both set. No more knives, though. Deal? Lydia laughs, a broken, grateful sound. Deal, I swear. I'll change for her. Lisa, the nurse, moves closer, pulling out her wallet. I've got $20, she says, holding it out to Lydia. For your girl. Something small, like a toy or a snack. A grizzled guy in a flannel shirt digs into his pocket. Here's 50, kid deserves it. One by one, others join in. $10, $5, a handful of ones. Passing cash to Lydia with quiet words, hang in there. You're not alone. A trucker tosses in a 20, gruff but sincere, for the little fighter. Soon, Lydia is holding a messy stack of bills, her hands shaking as she whispers, Thank you. God, thank you. Even Tom, who'd been a thorn all night, shifts his weight, looking sheepish. He pulls a crumpled 10 from his jacket and mutters, for the kid, dropping it into the pile before slinking back. The crowd chuckles, tension breaking like a dam. Jake, still behind the counter, peeks out, his bravado gone. I didn't mean, he starts, but Lisa cuts him off. Save it. Just don't pull that crap again. He nods, shrinking into silence. Keanu watches it all, then turns to the waitress hovering near the register. Put everyone's meals on me, he says, his voice casual but carrying, and throw in some pie, every table, they've earned it. The room erupts, cheers, claps, a few no ways from stunned customers. The waitress grins, scrambling to tally it up. You got it, Mr. Reeves, she calls, already slicing dessert. Keanu waves it off, no fuss, but the gesture lands deep, stitching the night back together. Helen looks at him, her eyes glistening. You didn't have to do all this, she says, voice rough with emotion. Standing up for me, that was enough. Keanu shrugs, meeting her gaze. Wasn't about me, you deserved it. And her, he nods at Lydia. She needed a break. Sometimes it just takes one push. Helen smiles, faint but warm. Well, you're a hell of a push, Reeves. Thank you. For all of us. Clara helps Helen adjust her coat, then grabs the wheelchair handles. Ready? She asks, her voice soft but sure. Helen nods, patting Lucy's head. Yeah, let's get out of here. Start fresh. They head for the door, Lucy trotting beside them, tail wagging like a metronome of hope. The crowd parts, some clapping softly, others just watching with quiet respect. Take care, Lisa calls, and Helen raises a hand in thanks as they roll out into the night. Lydia stands, clutching the money, her face a mix of exhaustion and relief. I'm going to her, my girl, she says, mostly to herself. Diane claps her shoulder. Good, I'll meet you at the hospital tomorrow. Make sure it's all set. Lydia nods, then looks around. I don't know how to repay this, she says, voice breaking. An older woman near the door shrugs. Just hug your kid for us. That's plenty. Lydia smiles, her first real one all night, and heads out, steps lighter than when she came in. The diner buzzes back to life, plates of pie hitting tables, laughter replacing shouts. Keanu pulls his hoodie up, ready to slip away, but Lisa stops him. You're something else, she says, grinning. Thanks for turning this mess around. He chuckles, low and easy. Wasn't just me, you all did it. He heads for the door, the cold October air hitting him as he steps outside, a warmth lingering in his chest. Inside, the crowd digs into dessert, swapping stories of the night. Helen's grit, Lydia's turnaround, Clara's return. Tom slumps in a corner, eating pie in silence, maybe rethinking a few things. The waitress cranks the radio, a soft tune filling the space, and for a moment the diner feels like more than just a stop. It's a place where broken pieces found a way to fit. Out in the dark, Helen and Clara disappear around a corner, arm in arm, Lucy at their heels, heading toward a future they'll build together. The night's chaos fades, leaving only hope in its wake.